Hello and welcome, one and all. This is Mick the Otter, and I hope each and every one of you are having just a stellar day as I am. Now, assuming you've read the title of the video, you know it's Arsenal of the Gods time today. And for those of you that are just getting here and don't quite know what AotG is, that's cool, let me lay it out real quick. Arsenal of the Gods is a breakdown on any given weapon belonging to a deity from any mythology, culture, or religion to discuss their powers, abilities, to rank them in a tier list at the end of the video. The only caveat to this is we will not be discussing the deities that wield said weapons, albeit excluding when we reference the myths for sources of a weapon's capabilities. Without further ado, let's get into it. The Spear of Longinus, or more accurately referred to as the Spear of Destiny, is a legendary artifact that has captured the imagination of people for centuries. According to several myths and legends, the spear possesses a range of powers and abilities that have been attributed to it, whether through the attestations of the spear itself or widespread acclaim, just because it was considered a holy artifact. These claims were strong enough to consider them as part of the weapon's arsenal and will be included as such. The first ability this infamous spear is known for is a pretty big one. It's granting invincibility. Now, to elaborate on this point, in the year 312 AD, the Roman Emperor, Constantine the Great, one of way too many greats, goddamn, was preparing for war against his biggest rival for complete control of the Roman Empire, Maxentius. And just before the decisive battle that would come to be known as the Battle of Milvian Bridge, he received a vision of a cross in the sky with a disembodied voice message of, "By the sign, conquer." And immediately after, probably equal parts scared shitless and inspired, he called for his army's battle standards and colors to be redone to bear the image of the cross with presumably tasteful colors. It's never really mentioned, but the image is still there. And now he marched to battle against Maxentius under these new standards. He carried the Spear of Destiny with him in belief that it would grant him the invincibility he would need to win the war. Constantine the Great did win the Battle of Milvian Bridge, and turn the course of history forever. And it is heavily implied that through the power of faith and belief in God, he was granted the invincibility that he had, with the spear as a proxy. Regardless, an interesting account all the same. Shit, if I had the ability to walk around with a 3-foot Moby dildo and manifest invincibility, I totally would. They'd listen to your every word, couldn't do anything about it except watch in utter terror, and if they had something slick to say, you go and bop the one with the 3-foot-long, 50-pound destructive force in your hand. Don't ask me how I know that.
Oh, hell no.
Meanwhile, everyone else is taking emotional and mental damage. Conquer their minds, then their bodies. Sun Tzu, probably. Now, another power associated with the Spear of Destiny is the ability to heal. And to the extent that it can heal isn't known, but it did cure blindness, or at least that's how the story goes, and even then, that's argued immensely to this day, even still. But to elaborate on this, when the partially blind Roman soldier, Longinus, pierced Jesus' flank with the spear in discussion to confirm his death, blood and water in equal parts gushed from Jesus' wound, and made contact with Longinus' eyes and the spear tip, shocker. And now, this is where many versions of the story differ. Some accounts say the blood's direct eye contact with his eyes cured the blindness, while others say the blood on the tip of the spear flicked back into his eyes after removal of the weapon. Regardless, it's cool. It's a holy artifact with Christ's magic blood on it, so it's got to account for something. Okay, so you're not going to believe this. The last two abilities that I've gone over with you about the Spear of Destiny possessing, the invincibility and the healing, yeah, those are by far the most prominent and have the most attestable evidence to date. And even then, the latter's being argued on. So, hate to break it to you, it's the end of the video. Deuces. Alright, I'm kidding. Anyway, there are a slew more minor powers to come from this weapon that are all based on folktales and rumors, but all of those minor powers are built on a larger folktale, and it's the Spear of Longinus being created from the Tree of Knowledge in the Garden of Eden, and as such is immensely powerful and has all these minor powers like I've just mentioned attributed to it. So, in rapid succession, we're going to go over them. Causing earthquakes. Pretty self-explanatory. Check. Control of the weather by creating storms, hail, and straight-up natural disasters even. In addition, the winds and tide were at its disposal, allowing the wielder to travel with ease. Granting divine knowledge. It could grant divine knowledge and foresight through the power of Jesus' blood imbued to the spear. Fucking nerd. Inflicting plagues and diseases. Yep, straight up. Why the fuck do you need pestilence when you got this guy? Actually, now that I think about it, I know why Conquest took his spot in the original lineup. Feels bad, man. And apparently, the spear also had an aura of fuck you to all demons, evil spirits, the IRS, everything in between. Dunno why you even need that, bro. Watch a demon walk up. He's catching COVID while getting hit with chunks of hail before getting back to hell by his choice.
Please, no more. I yield. I yield.
It's this or I bring out the 3-foot Moby.
No.
Now, as far as all of the powers go, I've saved the best for last. The literal power to bring about the end of the world. Now, I might have been lying when I said literal, because this one's a bit more symbolic and inconsistent than even the rest by a fair amount. The general consensus is the spear serves as a catalyst for the end times and final battle for good and evil by bringing about a series of unfortunate, cataclysmic events that lead to the world's destruction. However, like I said, more symbolic than anything. Trust. In Christian mythos, the Armageddon hasn't even happened yet, so this power serves speculative value at best. Whew. Okay, that is the rundown for all the powers and abilities this weapon is said to have. More than I would even begin to think for the spear. And before I read into this weapon, my honest assumption was, it's a spear that stabbed God's crucified son. Okay, and I admit, I'm surprised to see so much more about this weapon than I thought initially. And I really didn't think anyone else gave it much more thought than I did. That might be pretentious, but either way, I stand corrected. From rumors to speculation to myths, word of the spear has traveled by far. So the remaining question is, where does it place on the arsenal of the gods with the rest? This weapon's got invincibility, heals, the big nasty, battlefield-altering effects. Sounds pretty formidable. With careful consideration, the Spear of Longinus has been placed in dog water tier. And before people flip out and scream at me, the reasoning here: battlefield-altering effects are typically common in divine weapons, if not found in all of them. Plagues and disease is another power more often than not found in divine weapons. The Armageddon power is more symbolic and speculation than a literal ability, as I stated prior. And having a ward to malevolent beings and spirits is cool, but niche as fuck. The invincibility aspect could be quite effective, but it is rooted in the bearer's belief and faith in God. Not only does that depend on the specific wielder using the spear, but belief isn't always the sturdiest foundation for power. All of that leaves the last ability: divine knowledge and foresight. This, I would say, is the most interesting power, certainly. With divine knowledge being drip-fed from the source itself, you would have the upper mile, not upper hand, upper mile of difference between the wielder and the average opponent. Paired with foresight, you could potentially stop or counter anything coming your way. The only caveat to this is this evaluation is not against normal opponents, but other divine weapons. Divine knowledge and foresight would help a ton, sure, but you can't always stop what you can see coming. For instance, take a mid-20s single male, has no bitches, spends all of his time reading. We'll call him Jacob. One day, Jacob works up the courage to finally go to a bar, strike up a conversation with a cute girl. He's never had the chance to develop social skills or charisma because he's never done something like this. He's only spent his time reading books. And once he gets there, he's well aware of the threats around him. The Chad alpha males looming about the scene like lions to the sheep. Minutes more go by, and when it all seems to be going well, a titan of a man, clad in 200 pounds of rippling muscle, steps in between them. We'll call him Mick, because I too am also a strapping Chad. Mick instantly schmoozes his way into her DMs, and they leave together to go vehemently smash. Jacob is left alone to cry at his bar seat, get up, and go home to read another book about how to be social later. TLDR, he had the foresight to see he was going to be outgamed and outrizzed, but could not stop it. It's cool, if not gimmicky, but certainly not the best divine weapon out there. And before we leave, I want to shout out a few movies and media this Holy Lance has been in. My creative liberty is definitely taken here with this bad boy. We got Passion of the Christ, came out in 2004, pretty solid movie. It and its upcoming sequel in 2024 are directed by Mel Gibson. Do with that information what you will. Risen came out more recently in 2016. It's alright. Directed by Kevin Reynolds, no relation to Ryan Reynolds, and a slew of other Jesus movies. Just look up Jesus movie on Google and you'll find 30 million of them. Now, aside from movies, we've got Persona 2, Fate Grand Order, and DC Comics, with all of their own iterations. I think they're all amazing in their own rights. Personally, I'm a huge Fate fan, so I'm biased here, but it is what it is. That pretty much concludes all there really is to know about the Spear of Longinus. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know in the comments what your take on all this was, and I'd love to know someone else's thoughts on it. Till next time, everybody. Peace.